Why is it always the one you can't have? Why is it that she, the one whose heart isn't available, whose eyes never linger long enough to catch yours, why does she live in your head long after everyone else has left? There's something about her silence that feels louder than any confession. Something about the way she doesn't need you that makes you feel like maybe, just maybe, if you were enough, she would. You've met others, women who are kind, present, warm, but they don't keep you up at night. They don't pull you into the storm the way she does. And maybe you've told yourself it's chemistry, maybe fate, maybe she's just special. But deep down, in the quiet places you don't like to visit, you know it's more than that. It's not about her. Not really. It's about a space inside you that's still trying to heal. A wound that whispers, if I can win her, I'll finally be enough. Because when someone doesn't choose you, they reflect back everything you fear might be true about yourself. This story is about that kind of love, or what we mistake for love. The kind that's never really mutual, but feels more intimate than anything else you've known. It's about why you chase the unavailable, why you ache for the woman who won't stay, and why it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. You're not alone, and you're not broken. You're just living out a pattern your heart learned long before you ever knew what love was supposed to feel like. And if you're here, maybe it's time to look deeper. Because when you understand why you fall for the woman you can't have, you start to see all the places you're still waiting to be seen, and that changes everything. So take a breath, let the noise settle, and let this story meet you where you are. And if something in this speaks to a part of you no one else really sees, maybe consider subscribing, or just staying a little while. She was never yours. Not in the way your heart imagined, not in the way your daydreams tried to mold her into something tangible. She was more like a shadow that danced just out of reach, giving just enough light to spark hope, but never enough to guide you home. You told yourself you were patient, that it was timing, that if you just held on long enough, proved yourself, became everything she needed, she would see you, she would choose you. But there was no choosing. She wasn't ignoring you. She simply wasn't reaching for you. And still you stayed. Not because you didn't know better, but because some part of you didn't want to know better. Some part of you was still addicted to the ache, the pursuit, the fantasy. You see, we don't fall for people who ignore us just because we're lonely. We fall for them because their distance feels familiar, because we once had to earn love that should have been freely given. There's a wound beneath the surface, a quiet belief that whispers, love is not for free. You have to earn it, chase it, prove your worth. And she became the embodiment of that belief. Her lack of availability mirrored something you've always known, that love feels safest when it's uncertain. Because if she ever turned around and loved you back, what then? What happens when there's no more chasing, no more fixing? When you're finally seen naked and unguarded, would you know how to receive it? You might think the story is about her beauty, her mystery, the way she walks into a room like she owns your breath. But it's not about her. It's about the first time you learned that being yourself wasn't enough, that love was conditional, that you had to earn being wanted. And now, all these years later, you're still trying to win that moment back through her. Her silence is not random. It speaks directly to the part of you that still believes love is meant to be hard. You replay every interaction like a puzzle. The way she looked at you for 2 seconds longer. The way she laughed at your joke when she didn't have to. The texts that came in late and ended quickly. You romanticize the crumbs because your heart has been starving for years. And the saddest part? No one knows. You walk through life composed, stoic, maybe even charming. No one suspects that behind your eyes lives a story of being almost loved, almost chosen, almost enough. But here's the truth that will quietly wreck you. and then slowly set you free. Her rejection is not about your value, it's about your pattern, and until you see it, you will keep repeating it. You'll keep falling for the one who won't stay, not because they're special, but because they remind you of the moment you decided you weren't. There's a certain kind of man who lives with a quiet ache in his chest. He's the one who seems whole on the outside, strong, intelligent, dependable. He doesn't talk much about what's missing. Maybe he doesn't even know, but he feels it in the stillness, in the moments after a glance, after a conversation, after she leaves the room and he's left staring at the echo of her presence. He's not obsessed, he's not weak, he's just human. And when he meets her, the one who doesn't offer herself fully, not her time, not her truth, not her tenderness, something deeper stirs in him. It's not lust, it's not infatuation, it's recognition. A part of him has been waiting for this exact kind of rejection because it matches an older one that never got a voice. He's drawn not to her, but to the feeling of reaching, of stretching himself just to be worthy, just to be enough. And when she pulls away subtly, gracefully, or even coldly, he doesn't run. He doubles down, because a boy who once felt unseen will become a man who chases women who won't see him, not because he wants pain, but because he's trying to undo it. It's unconscious, it's deep, it's ancient, but it's not love. Real love doesn't leave you guessing your worth. It doesn't withhold itself to stay powerful. It doesn't feel like hunger dressed up as romance. Still, you stay, because walking away feels like giving up not on her, but on hope, on the version of you that finally gets chosen. That's the trick, isn't it? You think you're chasing her, but really, you're chasing closure. Closure for the parts of you that were taught love had to be earned, that you had to wait to be picked. That devotion looks like patience, sacrifice, quiet suffering, and when she doesn't choose you, it's not just disappointment, it's devastation, because it confirms what you've always feared, that no matter how good you are, how kind, how deep, how true, it's still not enough to make someone stay. But hear this, her inability to love you has nothing to do with your capacity to be loved. Her absence does not measure your worth. Her silence does not echo your value. You are not unlovable because someone chose not to love you. Sometimes people don't choose us because they can't. Not because we're missing something, but because they are. Still, the pain is real. It lands, it lingers, and it teaches you something that feels final. Don't want too much. Don't need too much. Don't feel too much. But that's not the truth. That's just the wound talking. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is not the heartbreak. It's the way you learn to stop hoping. You stop showing people the parts of you that long. The softness, the honesty, the need. You tuck it away behind charm, ambition, a good sense of humor. You become the man who has it all together because vulnerability hasn't felt safe in a long time, especially not with her. Because with her, everything felt like almost close, almost mutual, almost something real. And almost is a ghost that follows you long after she's gone. You find yourself measuring every new connection against the shadow she left behind. Not because she was the one, but because you never got the chance to find out. You were never given the ending, so your heart keeps writing it on its own. It fills in the blanks with what could have been, what she might have felt, what you should have said. The story grows longer, more tragic, more sacred, even though most of it only ever lived in your imagination. And you blame yourself for that. You call yourself delusional, too sensitive, maybe even pathetic. But you're not. You're just a man with an open heart in a world that doesn't reward tenderness. You're someone who feels deeply and wanted it to mean something. You're human. And even if she never said the words, You felt something. You saw glimpses. You held on to the way she looked at you when no one else was watching, the way her smile softened when your name came up, the way she almost leaned in. That almost lives in your body, and letting go of her feels like killing the last part of you that still believes in magic. But maybe, just maybe, letting go is not the same as giving up. Maybe letting go is choosing to come back to yourself, to the version of you that doesn't need to be proved worthy. Because the truth is, you were never waiting for her. You were waiting for someone who would love you the way you've always tried to love others. Someone who wouldn't make you guess, who wouldn't leave you hanging between lines and labels and late-night texts that meant nothing in the light of day. You were waiting for a love that made you feel safe in your own skin. And that love, the real kind, doesn't look like longing. It looks like presence. It looks like peace. It looks like finally being met with the same depth you've been giving your whole life. So stop holding your breath for someone who never intended to catch you. You are not hard to love. You're just loving in a world that confuses intensity with intimacy. And one day you'll see the difference. There's a particular silence that follows someone who never really loved you. It's not the silence of loss. It's not grief. It's not even heartbreak in the usual sense. It's confusion. It's the quiet question of, was any of it real? You replay every word, every look, every moment. You convince yourself you misread it, that you wanted too much, that maybe you made it all up. Because how could something that felt so deep, so alive in you, mean so little to someone else? That's what haunts you, not that she left, but that she never arrived. That while you were memorizing her soul, she was just passing through, and you carry that confusion into everything else. It changes how you love, how you trust, how you let people see you. You become more cautious, sharper. You learn to laugh off your own feelings before anyone else can. You start calling yourself too much before anyone else gets the chance. You bury your longing in sarcasm, in distractions, in people you don't really care about. You pretend you're fine, because in some twisted way, chasing her taught you that suffering quietly is strength. But it's not. It's just loneliness in disguise, and you deserve more than that. You deserve more than breadcrumbs from someone who never sat at your table. You deserve more than the constant ache of maybe. But healing doesn't look like suddenly stopping the ache. It looks like noticing it and not shaming yourself for it. It looks like saying, yes, I wanted her. Yes, it hurt. Yes, I stayed too long. And still, I'm worthy, because you are. Not when she comes back. Not when someone finally sees you. Now, here, as you are. The parts of you that love too deeply, those are not flaws. They are proof. Proof that you were awake in a world that numbs. That you kept your heart open, even after being let down. That you dared to want real love, even in a culture that glorifies detachment. So, if she never chose you, let that be her story. Not the story you keep telling yourself about what you lacked. You didn't fall for her because she was right. You fell for her because your heart still thought love had to be hard. But it doesn't. It really doesn't. There's a moment, and maybe you felt it when you finally stopped checking your phone for her name. Not because you stopped caring, but because something in you shifts. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, like the way seasons change without asking permission. You wake up one morning and realize you didn't think about her first thing. You didn't reach for her memory to soothe or torture you. You just existed. And that's where healing lives. Not in grand declarations, not in pretending you're over it, but in the small, subtle moments when your heart chooses peace over fantasy. Because fantasy, my friend, is what kept you tied to her. It wasn't the real version of her you fell for, it was the version you created. The one who would finally choose you back. The one who would turn around one day and say, "I see you. I've always seen you." That's the voice you've been waiting to hear. Not hers, theirs. The voice from long ago. The one that should have made you feel safe, enough, wanted. But instead, it taught you that love was always just out of reach, that you had to perform for affection, that you had to be better, quieter, stronger, smarter. That love came after proving yourself. So when you met her, the woman who felt like a test, your nervous system lit up. Not because she was right, but because she was familiar. And your heart chased her the way it used to chase approval, validation, safety. You weren't chasing love. You were chasing relief. Relief from the ache of feeling unworthy. And she, without knowing it, maybe became the symbol of your redemption. But healing begins when you stop asking a person to give you what they never took away. She didn't break you. She just revealed where the break already was. And that's where your power begins. When you stop needing her to explain why she didn't stay. When you stop needing closure from someone who never gave you clarity. When you stop needing to be chosen to believe that you are worth choosing. Because you are. You always have been. It was never about her. She was just the mirror. And now, finally, you're brave enough to look. There's a kind of liberation that doesn't come with a celebration. It comes quietly. It comes the day you see her, maybe in a photo, maybe across a room, maybe just in your mind, and feel nothing sharp. No ache, no flutter, no longing dressed as hope. Just space. Space where there used to be tension. Space where your chest once tightened. Space where every breath felt like a question. Now, it's just you. And maybe that's the hardest part of all, realizing that you've come back to yourself. Because when you've built your identity around the chase, the absence of that chase feels like loss. But it's not. It's a return, a remembering, that before her, before any of them, you were whole. You just forgot. You forgot that you didn't have to win someone to be worthy. You forgot that real love isn't a battlefield, that it doesn't require you to shrink, to wait, to ache silently hoping to be seen. You forgot that love isn't earned, it's received. And now, slowly, you're learning again. You're learning that the heart doesn't have to hurt to be awake, that you don't have to bleed to be valid. That love, real love, isn't the high of being noticed. It's the calm of being known, not for what you do, but for who you are. And when that love comes, it will not feel like fire. It will feel like home. You won't have to beg for a seat at the table. You won't have to decipher mixed signals or pretend to want less than you do. You'll be met, fully, and the ghost of her, the one who never stayed, will finally fade into the background, not because she didn't matter, but because you matter more than her mystery, more than your pattern, more than the story that said, "This is the kind of love you get." Because that story, it ends here, right now, with you choosing yourself not as a consolation prize, but as the most sacred beginning. So breathe. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are just healing. And healing doesn't always look like strength. Sometimes it looks like crying in your car. Sometimes it looks like deleting the chat history and not going back for it. Sometimes it looks like finally saying the words, "She didn't love me, and that's not my fault," and letting that be enough. You'll be tempted, one day, to rewrite the past, to reach for her memory like an old song that once made you feel alive. Maybe you'll see her smile in someone else's face, hear her laugh in a crowded room, smell a perfume that reminds you of the way she never really leaned in close enough. And in that moment, nostalgia will try to lie to you. It will whisper that it wasn't so bad, that maybe if you'd waited longer, tried harder, been more patient, less emotional, more detached. But don't fall for it. Don't romanticize what kept you empty, because love that starves you slowly isn't love. It's control, it's ego. It's a mirror for your deepest insecurity dressed up as destiny. You don't miss her. You miss the part of you that still believed you could fix it, that if you just got it right this time, you'd finally be loved the way you needed. But you are not a project. You are not a puzzle waiting for someone to solve. You are not meant to be unlocked only by those who withhold affection until you break yourself down far enough to be let in. You are meant to be loved in the light, as you are, without performance, without proving, without pain masquerading as passion. And when you feel yourself slipping, when your mind goes back to her, to the version of her you still sometimes want to believe in, pause. Ask yourself, what part of me still believes I'm not enough without her? Sit with that part. Hold it gently. Listen, because he, the boy who learned to earn love, he's still waiting. Not for her to come back, but for you to tell him, you don't have to chase anymore. You're safe now. I've got you. That's what this journey has always been about. Not about her, not even about heartbreak, but about coming home to the parts of yourself you abandoned in the name of being chosen. And slowly, as you do, you'll start to feel it. Peace where there used to be longing, compassion where there used to be blame. And maybe, one day, you'll thank her. Not because she left, not because she hurt you, but because her absence showed you where your love truly belongs. Here, in your hands, in your heart, with you. One day, you'll meet someone new, not because you're looking, not because you're trying to fill the space she left behind, but because you've stopped shrinking to be loved. You've stopped chasing silence, and in that stillness, something shifts. This new woman, she won't spark the same chaos. She won't pull you into the storm and leave you gasping for air. She won't make you guess how she feels, only to punish you for wanting to know. She'll be clear, soft, steady, and at first, that might scare you, because you've learned to mistake unpredictability for love. You've mistaken anxiety for chemistry. You've spent so long running after what if that you've forgotten how it feels to be still, to be met. This woman, she'll ask how your day was and actually listen. She'll remember the small things you thought no one noticed. She'll make space for your quiet, for your sadness, for your fire. She won't need you to perform. She'll want your truth. And it might feel boring at first, not because it is, but because your nervous system is still recovering from thinking love means suffering. But over time, her presence will teach you something no heartbreak ever could. You don't have to earn what's already yours. And when you look at her, you won't see a prize. You'll see a mirror, a reflection of all the love you finally gave yourself. She won't complete you because you're already whole. She won't fix you because you're not broken. She'll just love you, freely, simply, clearly. And in that love, you'll feel something new. Not the high, not the ache, but safety and peace. And maybe, for the first time in your life, quiet joy. The kind that doesn't need to be chased, the kind that stays. And you'll smile, not because you won, not because you proved anything, but because you finally understand. The one you couldn't have, she was never meant to stay. She was meant to show you the parts of yourself still waiting to be held. And you were meant to come home. Welcome back.